to the program. This is What's My Story. My name is Catherine Mwangi. Remember last week we hosted the Banks family, and just in case you're tuning into this story for the first time today, just know you can find last week's episode on YouTube or Facebook Watch. And just because I know you won't get to do that now because this episode is already on air, here's a couple of highlights from some of the things we talked about last week. Take a look.
We found out I was pregnant on a Tuesday, and in the next week, Tuesday, I was married. But I don't think he digested how fast his life changed either. In a week, he was also married. It was not something as a guy he planned to do. And so it began more emotional and verbal abuse. And we were in a stage where I think because I was so young, so I was very submissive and I was very passive.
Give me the connection between that nobility of wanting to be the man at home and how that translates to the violence.
This is what happens. When a man comes home on a regular basis with failure, he has a pink-eyed, sweet, amazing, beautiful wife, somebody's daughter, a beautiful family's daughter, sitting at home waiting to support you. And she's going through her own troubles. She's throwing up, she's hungry, she's going through her own set of problems. I've come there thinking, hang on, let me not, my first thoughts are not, let me see how comfortable she is and everything else. It's how do I deal with the disappointment of today? The days are getting closer to paying the bills. This is happening, that is happening. So money can put a lot of pressure on a lot of situations. And I feel for me, I made money, the lack of balance is what caused the problem. Had I had balance and understood that, hey, hang on a second, it's okay, God provides, which I had faith. But you know, sometimes when you're in that situation, faith sort of walks out the door for just a couple of seconds. So it was a situation of that pressure building. And when that pressure started building, I said to myself, I think I made a rule somewhere in my mind. And I said to myself that, you know something, I'm not going to live life comfortably until I achieve that. You know, it's like a hunger fast or something that you do to yourself. I don't know, it's some mental rule you make. So Shazmeen was there in our marriage, newly married, being supportive, loving, caring. And I started getting more bitter and resentful and understanding that, hang on, I can't pay this bill, I can't do this, I can't achieve, I'm failing as a man. And that pressure started building. Now, when that pressure started building, and Shazmeen was being as supportive as possible, to me it came across like, hang on, you're understanding me. So she was being kind and comfortable telling me, hang on, tomorrow's another day. And I wanted to turn around and say, but I need it done today. And that pressure comes out to the person who's most valuable to you, who's the softest to you, who's the sweetest to you, who's the most amazing. And I wish for the people out there who are going through this, I wish I could press the pause button for you and you could learn from my life, and that's why I'm here today.
Yeah.
Because if there's one thing that I could do today, it would be to go back there. It would be to go back to that moment and just take that sweetness and just understand that, have a moment of patience and relax and look after this beautiful angel that some family gave you. Some parents gave birth to and looked after for so long. And she's so amazing. But instead what I did is I chose to focus on what was important to me. And that was money. And I made it sound in such a way that money was important to us. So even when Shan saw that, hang on a second, Mo has come back today, it's like a fisherman who's come back without fish. You could see now she started getting a bit scared of him. Okay, he didn't have a good day. So now the marriage mood moved from our marriage to our success on money, which was such a shame.
Wow. And thank you for your courage to share this story, because not many people do. You know, people are dying with these problems in their marriage, and I'm grateful and I thank God that you've been doing this for the last almost 1 year, just sharing your story on different platforms. If for nothing else, to just bring that liberation and redemption in the lives of people, married or not, married or not. So we left it off with you, Mr. Bank, last week, where you spoke about the pressures of money. So the relationship moved from this nice, soft, tender, romantic thing to I need to find money to survive. If not, I'm not even good enough to be your husband. And that moved you, or that caused you to be violent towards someone who didn't deserve it.
That's right.
And that went on for 5 years.
Yes.
So in the course of that 5 years, did you have any light bulb moments where just with yourself, you sit and you say, what I'm doing is wrong. I need to stop.
The truth of the matter is I wish I did. Because I know myself. Had I had that light bulb moment, I would have stopped.
Yeah.
I never stopped for even a second to see that when I first set out to woo her and get her into my life, she was there. That what my dream was to have her was here. That God not only had done that, but had given us peace, had given us health, had blessed us with a child. None of that. I saw none of that. I just saw the fact that I was behind. I was behind in where I expected myself to be. And then comes the prodigal nightmare for every man. And I'm sure for every woman as well, where you compare yourself to other people or your peers around you. And you realize, hang on, I'm a couple of blocks behind this fellow or that fellow or this company or that company. And that adds the pressure. So what you do is, based on that rule that you set for yourself, that you're not going to do anything, not be happy, not enjoy a meal until you reach that spot
That
of providing
level.
security.
Yes.
Unfortunately, and it's a tough rule. Then you do nothing. So unfortunately, no, I wish I had.
Yeah.
In hindsight, I wish I had.
You wish you had. Shazmeen, did your parents know you were going through this?
No.
They didn't.
No.
So you even hid it. You
Yeah.
protected him by hiding it from them.
Yes.
Oh my,
Yeah.
do they know now?
They do know now.
Of course, actually,
Yes.
because you left
Yeah.
him.
Yes.
So we're at the point at which it's 5 years. You've reached a point where you've said, you know what, today is the day. What was that day like?
Confused.
Okay.
I was scared. I was going into another phase of my life that was unknown again. But I had a faith and a strength somehow. I knew that leaving was right, not only for him, for me, but our child. That environment would churn out not the beautiful man I'd have in him today. Although I do feel every situation, always brings out the best. It has to happen for a reason. But I was scared and I was unsure. I had gone from being taken care of in your parents' home to suddenly then being taken care of him. So I'd never lived alone. I hadn't struggled alone. I hadn't done any of that. So I wasn't aware also of how tough that second phase was about to be as well.
So did he know you were leaving?
Yes.
You told him?
Yes, I told him, and that's when he finished the apartment for me to make sure we were both comfortable. But at that point, he thought, okay, maybe you're going for 3 months, and then you'll come back in 3 months.
Why did you think it was going to be a short go?
So I can understand where Shazmeen had come from at that point in time. I want you to picture this, Catherine. A situation where for 5 years, every day you're waiting for your man to come home and have lived at least a normal life. Forget the dream now. The dream has disappeared. But a normal life. And all that comes back is pressure, tension, lack of success, complaint. It's not a life anymore. And there's pressure. And there's abuse. So what Shazmeen did is she said, look, this is not working out. I need a small break. I need to release the pressure somehow. And she was smart about it. What she said to me was that, look, I can go to South Africa. And if I do go to South Africa, which is where her parents were, there's a possibility I may not come back. So I looked at that possibility and said, hang on a second. Now we're talking about, whoa, okay. And she's like, alternatively, I can move here locally and just take a break and relax, and the pressure between us can go down. We could both get some time to reflect, and then we can review it. Now, you take South Africa and you take local, you'll run for local.
Absolutely.
So I went for local. And I said, look, at the end of the day, so please understand that there was love between us. There was a lot of love between us. I didn't want her to be uncomfortable. I didn't want her to be hurtful or anything. It's just, there was a place where I couldn't handle myself or understand myself properly enough to be able to provide the best family environment. And I'm sure had I done so, she wouldn't have left.
She wouldn't
But
have.
the fact that I didn't forced her to take this direction.
Yeah.
So now we got her an apartment where she could feel a little more comfortable, had a little more space, and could feel that freedom and independence. And there was less pressure coming in from my side.
So you still took care of her and the baby even when they both left?
Yes, I did for the initial part.
Yeah.
Until I realized that this may be a permanent situation.
And what happened for him to realize that this was going to be permanent?
Because I was hoping that in the separation we took, we would sit, we would talk, softness would come, things would change. It wasn't happening. Nothing was changing. Those conversations weren't happening. And I realized at some point there was so much sadness or bitterness that had come between the two of us. It was clouding out any love we had for each other. So those conversations are not happening. So the months are dragging. I'm not going to go back into that same environment
Yeah.
unless something changes.
Right.
He was of the opinion, if you come back, we'll change it. I was like, it's not happening until it changes before I come back, now that I'm out of it.
Yeah.
And so then at some point, he was advised, stop financing her, don't pay for things, and she'll run back.
It will force her to come back because
But
then,
I got a job, and I was like, it's not happening.
girl power.
And I was like, I'll take care of me. And then at some point, you know, we involved so many people to guide and talk to us.
Big mistake?
Huge, huge mistake. I was listening to people's anger and bitterness in their marriages and how they wish they could solve it, and it's kind of, I'm living the dream for me to do it to him. And he was speaking to elders in the community that were telling him, cut off the finance, who pays for a wife when she's left? You don't do that. And so at that point, you know, we stopped talking to each other. And when we stopped talking to each other, we still had to communicate with because of our son.
Yeah.
So I went and, you know, I found a lawyer. I don't know, I think she was heaven sent because she helped me, you know, from her heart. And she made me very tough because I walked in crying about how my life was falling apart and I don't know what to do. And I remember on the first day, she was like, you wipe those tears, they ain't ever happening again. You grow up, and you grow up very quick because life is going to change. And I still remember sitting there stunned and shocked that I'm not getting like any woman empathy, but I'm getting like a very strong motherly strength. And I remember, so we went through a period where we went with the lawyer back and forth,
Working out the divorce?
working out child arrangement.
Child support.
Because
okay.
I didn't want to lose. I wasn't going to. So Islamically, my son should have gone to him.
Okay.
I wasn't going to give my son up. Like, it's not happening. You don't have him at 18 to give him up. It is not happening. And so we went back and forth with custody, and then we ended up settling on an amount he would help me with just for my child because I was earning. And then he got my son on weekends, and I had my son during the weekday. And so that also, I think, threw him off because it was like, I'm supposed to be this sweet, amazing little girl, this beautiful wife, and I'm also now rising,
Strong and
finding a voice, talking back, not settling.
Yes.
Understanding what I want now in my marriage, and this is not it. But I was always clear it was with him. But I couldn't see at that point, would it ever be?
How will the breakthrough come? Yes, yes.
And so we reached a point where we weren't talking now. And I still remember, this moment, Catherine. At that point, I was in property. And I was crying on a pillow at night. And I remember thinking to myself, they are women all over the world right now that are crying because they are alone, and there's no one that can help. I don't want this to be my story. And I remember I quit the property and I said, how do I change? How does my life change? How do I get better? How do I heal? And that's when I started to research, and I found Tony Robbins, and I started to study. And I went for the life coaching, and I went for, you know, one course. And I remember in the 2 years, there was a moment when I released. And I remember sitting on a prayer mat thinking, I'm done. I can't fight him. I can't do this anymore. I'm not fighting. This isn't going to be, you come drop my son and we get to pass a remark or a look at each other anymore. I'm not doing this. I'm 25. I'm not doing this. And I remember when I dropped it and I said a prayer in my heart, and I sort of also sent like this love and energy that I had been taught how to do towards him. And I promise you, the next time, that following weekend, when he dropped my son didn't walk down the stairs and come to the door himself. He was at the door, and I opened up the door. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, I was just wondering if you want to come for dinner. And I remember thinking, we're not talking at all. We'd have to talk, you know, movie would be easier.
Yeah.
And I remember looking, and I was so hungry, because at some point I was doing biscuits and tea, and, you know, I couldn't afford so much either. And I was like, dinner sounds so good. And we went for Chinese, right?
Yeah, we did.
We went for Chinese, and I took the doggy bag as well.
Oh, yeah, tomorrow.
Yes. And I remember we went and we had a meal, and that dinner we didn't discuss anything. We just sort of were. As a family, my son, I could see, was just so happy.
Oh.
Like mom and dad are together.
Yes.
He's already 7. And literally, that dinner began everything else, because then it became, do you want to come in for tea?
Oh.
Then it became, okay, do you want to go for lunch? And so we began sort of courting and dating again.
So before we get there.
Oh, yes.
So how long was this period of separation?
2 years.
Wow. So 2 years later is when you stand outside her door and say, would you like to have dinner tonight?
Yeah.
What happened to you that day for you to ask her out?
From all the people who advised me, there was one piece of advice at that time my best friend told me, which rings true till today. And his words to me were, Mo, you have everything in your wife, you have everything in a child. The only problem here is you. And if you drop your ego from here to here, 2 things will happen. One, you'll see the wood from the trees. 2, you'll get a true understanding of how you feel. So what I did is that whole week, I reflected on that. And I realized that, hang on a second, he has nothing to gain. Why would he say this to me? And I realized that, okay, what does my ego want? I just want to win. And when she says black, I say white. When she says day, I say night. Why am I doing that? It's so stupid.
Yeah, I'm always right.
Yeah. Now I realize she's always right. So that's wisdom right there. It's called post-divorce wisdom. Yes. So what I did is I dropped my ego.
Funny.
I dropped my ego and I started to try and see life through a different new perspective. And I really thank him, honestly.
Yeah.
Today for, you know, showing me that little bit. But I also realized something, Catherine. In doing so, I realized in a flash of a moment all my mistakes. My ego, my pride, my way of looking at life showed me who I was, what she saw in me, what I needed to be, what I was, the changes I needed to make that I haven't yet made, and why she had the right to be who she had. And all I could see was a beautiful wife, a beautiful mother who was protecting her son. And she loved me. But what she didn't want was a toxic environment. And that toxic environment, unfortunately, she had to trick herself out to get out of it. But I could see what I had created as an environment for that.
Were you scared asking her out that night?
You know, I was, you know, when you realize the truth. I'll give you an example. Have you ever had a fight with a good friend and then you realize the truth after a while, and then you're so ashamed to a degree you even have a difficulty facing yourself, not even in the mirror, with yourself. And you're like, oh my God, I know the truth, but I don't know how to face that. At that moment, I knew the truth. And I stopped listening to all my elders. I stopped listening to all the voices outside, because I realized the truth was within me. The lie that I was living of what direction I wanted my family to go to was within me. And now I saw. So when I asked her for dinner that night, it was from a very humble, very simple place. And it's odd, because you see, I really believe in something. When God wants to do something, He softened her heart to say, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
And I came from a point of humility now, with zero ego, in fact shame, that this is what I'd done. So I now had to find a way of apologizing for all of this, and a way of looking and seeing, hang on a second, I have a beautiful wife who gave up everything at the age of 18, the opportunity to go to university and everything that came with it, to live a normal life.
Yeah.
She chose to live with me. I made those years hell. Now I had to redeem myself somehow.
You were interested in having her back?
I loved her so much, but my pride and ego at that time didn't let me bend in front of her. But at home I used to cry.
Oh.
Yes, I used to cry at home that I didn't have my family and everything else. And when I spoke to some of my elders, others would be like, leave her, there's so many fish in the sea, marry another one. But the fact of the matter is, the minute I saw her, I knew she was my soulmate. I knew she was the one.
Yeah.
And it's just, sometimes you just need the right advice, and my friend gave me that right advice and said, lower your ego. And when I did it, the truth came out.
That's a true friend.
Yeah.
Because most don't tell you the truth.
Indeed.
Yes.
Most don't. And you happen to be lucky because she was hungry that night.
And she liked Chinese.
Now that's divinity right there working for you, because if she was not hungry, she'd be like, no, I've eaten.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Just try some other time.
Yes.
You know, but
Yeah.
she was starving. So, you know, at least that opened the door to now the healing, the redemption. So after 2 years, man, at what point did you trust him enough to start to say to him, I love you?
When I could push the boundary enough. to
You
know.
tested it.
Yes.
Ah.
And all women do. You will test a boundary with a man to know how safe can I be with you. But the fun bit was I had studied all this and then I'm living in it. And I tested him enough to know, will you shout? Will you scream? What point do you break? What point do you go back to who you were? You know, how far can I push it? And so there was a lot of healing that had to happen with our past. There were so many tough conversations that we had to have in order to move on. And I remember, as hard as I would push it, the quieter, humbler, and more apologetic he used to be. And they reached a point where I was like, I'm not here to control. I don't need you to keep saying sorry. We're beyond that. And so we didn't tell people then we were seeing each other again. I only told my dad. And my dad had a conversation with him, and he told my dad, I will not only look after her, you have my word. I will never shout. I will never scream. I will never hit her. And I mean, now, we're 10 years later, like, he's lived up to that. But at that point, I believed him. And I could see now, as we, you know, the journey kept going, and I needed to talk to be able to heal, he would be there. He was present. He was loving. And then it reached a point where, you know, he was ready for us to sort of move in together.
Back together again, yeah.
And I said, unless we get divorced. And I was like, you know, it has been such a tough journey from 18 to this point that I'm still not ready to go back. So we will date for another entire year. But now we will date divorced, because now I need to know the truth.
So
now
hold on,
I'm not
so
yours.
wait, so you were separated for 2.
Yes, still married.
He wants you back.
Yes,
You say, no, we have to get divorced first.
yes.
Okay. Explain that thinking.
So I knew that if we continued dating the way we were and we stayed married, then it was easy for me to go back. But what if him still being the way he is has only been a 6-month change. So I was like, we've been great for 6 to 7 months, but I want to see how long does this last in a year? Does it last? And so I said the only way to do it now, after the back and forth, the learnings, the grief, the teachings, is if we get divorced and we make it in this year, then we'll get married again. And I remember he was like, oh, I just got you back. Do not do this to me. And I gave him my word. I told him, I promise you that if we go through, because the divorce could only happen Islamically if he signed. It's the male that just has the veto power. And I remember saying that after we get divorced, let's see how we are for a year. If it doesn't work, then we both don't go through that grief again. Now it's easier. And so I still remember, you know, he believed me. He asked me 50,000 times to promise. And I said, I promise, as long as we stick to the way we've been and we heal and we work on this, you have my word. If it goes wrong, then it's easy for both of us. And so I remember we went to get the divorce signed, and he had a very close friend there, and the priest, we call him like the Maulana, was there. And I was staying at my best friend's house because everyone was like, you're going through a divorce, you know, we need to be there for you. And I still remember he was signing it, and he was bawling and he was crying and he had snot coming down his nose. And I was smiling, and you know, his close friend was looking at him saying, you know, like looking at me like, you are an evil monster, you are smiling.
And I'm looking at you like, who does that?
Yes, this poor man's getting divorced. And I remember looking at him saying, but aren't we going on a date tomorrow?
Yeah,
like,
we were.
We are having lunch tomorrow. So
why are you crying
Why
now?
are you crying? We're okay. And I remember the priest looking to reaffirm this is divorce and not a marriage certificate, right? Like this. And so we signed it, and he dropped me. He picked me for the divorce, and then he dropped me back. And I remember my best friend was standing at the door, all protective, because nobody knew, you know, we were giving this a second chance. And I walked out of the door, and I was like, I love you. And she was like, oh no, you're divorced now. You don't have to say that. And that was it. And we went through the divorce. And the funny thing was, I'll never forget, the night we signed the divorce, a very close family friend lost their daughter, their 13-year-old daughter, that night. And I remember realizing the value of how short life could be. And I knew how much I loved him. And I think that shock to the both of us, because here you are, you travel with this family, you've watched this girl grow up, and she got hit and she's passed away, and you're watching the parents grieve. And I said, we have a shot for our son to have this beautiful chance in a family. And so you won't believe it, for the next year, we had lunch at Java at ABC. For the entire year, he came to work, and I was still studying, coaching, and you know, I was like, I want to get out of it completely now, a permanent job, because I want to do this. We've done it, we've done the work, everything I've learned, we're doing it, it's working, you know, this could help so many other lives.
Okay, so before we go there again, let's first take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking to Mo about his experience through the divorce. And then now we can come to the lunches at Java after the break. And welcome back from the break. It's What's Your Story? Today we have the Banks family, married, separated, divorced. That's where we are now. Mo, you were bawling, signing those papers.
Yes, I was. And the reason I was bawling was, it was such a significant moment. It was a moment of, there was trust, there was fear, there was hope in that moment. Here I was giving away the only piece of security I had and my link to her to demonstrate our love. And I was now venturing over the cliff, so to say, to now a new place where she was confident that we were going, of where our love existed. But now I had to prove it. And I was hoping that I didn't have to do that, because I just wanted to continue from where we are and not waste any more time in the proving process. But then now, after I've learned what I've learned today, in today's day and age, a lady needs to feel secure.
Yeah.
She needs to feel comfortable. She needs to know there's consistency. She needs to, she needs to know she's safe.
Yeah.
And that's what she wanted to feel. So in case it didn't work out, then we didn't have to go through the divorce again. And plus it was a demonstration of a gesture on my part that, look, if you respect me enough after everything that we've gone through, then you will give me this little thing where we will start on even terms again. But it will be on fair terms. And I'm giving you a chance to reprove. And I think I wanted to add a footnote here. As we had now grown through this separation, and we had from our Chinese to the hot dogs to a few other things, our energy began to change. Because now that pressure financially was off, a few things were off, and we began to get back slowly to that real essence of why we got back together in the first place, which was our love. So that started to rekindle in a very beautiful way. And that's the only faith I had when I was signing that paper. That beautiful love that we both shared was now coming back to life. So this anger, the people, the community, the elders, all the people who meant well in their own different ways, all that noise was out now, you know. And now it was just her and me and our essence. So it was beautiful.
Yeah. What about for you? Because remember, the reason she left in the first place was because you felt you were not being the family man, the provider, the protector, and you felt you needed to do more. So it had nothing to do with her. It had everything to do with you and feeling I'm at a good place now. Now, you know, I can provide for my family without pressure. And so now that she left and your best friend helped open your eyes into what's important and to what you needed to do, and it so happened to be the time also when you were financially comfortable, at least comparative to, you know, the last 5 years, then would you still have chased her?
Maturity begins to creep in where you begin to realize, like she said, when my best friend's daughter died, you begin to realize the value of life. You begin to value the value of loneliness. You begin to value small smiles, cries, the smell of poo from your kid, toys lying around the floor, loneliness, opening and coming to a house with nothing in it.
Yeah.
And you realize, what is all this for? Was it for money? And when you start to actually get that time, which she did something really beautiful, and I thank her for doing it, is giving us that time to see perspectives. We needed that. And I think it was probably a cusp where a lot of realization happened. So I began to see the wood from the trees clearly. And you know, it's funny, I was more confident about us getting together after the divorce than when we were married all together.
Oh.
Yes, I was so sure that the steps she was taking were right.
Yeah.
And because maturity was just creeping in that way.
Got it.
So it was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was good.
So Shaz, lunches at Java every day?
And roses every day.
Every day?
Every day.
Oh.
I would give them away because I just had
just
two
too
vases.
many.
Yes. and then we would meet every evening. I never allow him to stay over because I was like,
I was going to ask that. Like,
Yeah.
was there physical intimacy during that time?
yes.
Oh. I needed to get that out of the way. Okay.
There was, but I
Okay.
never let him stay over. Like I wanted us to really, I wanted that if we're going to do this for the rest of our lives, we've got this one chance to make this right and to make it work. And I'm not letting anything cloud that this time. This time I've grown. I'm in my senses. I know the value of marriage. I've always wanted since I was a kid.
And he's also in the same space.
Exactly. And then we have this gorgeous boy, you know, who is so happy mom and dad are together.
Back together.
My son stopped. I could see my son had become a protector, whereas when he would come into my environment, my son would very much be, he would come
Shield
and
you
hold me.
almost, yeah.
And that's when I learned children see, notice everything. As much as we never involved our son in anything,
Yes.
he was still very much part of it. And so when I saw my son loosen up, and they would sit and play Monopoly, and my son didn't have a need to be like, Mama, are you okay? You know, like I'm with Papa, but I still, all of that just, it melted away. And I remember that at that point, you know, we would meet and we were dating and we would go out and we'd do stuff. And I remember we were sitting on my dining table and we were having pizzas. And, you know, he looked me in the eye and he said, you know, Sean, I've bought an apartment and will you move in and we start fresh? And I remember sitting at the table and I cried because I had never felt so right. I had never felt so loved. I knew that somehow such a tough era from 18 to 25, 26, like this was it. I might not be able to understand that at that time that mess would today become a message. But I knew that I'm ready. And I remember, you know, packing my 2 suitcases and we were so excited. We were so excited that we actually gave the apartment I was in all the furniture. We just didn't care.
Yeah.
We left everything. We just took our clothes and my son's clothes and his toys. And I remember when I still have a check because it bounced. Well, it didn't bounce. We canceled the amount. So we were sitting at Tile and Carpet and he told me, furnish it the way you want. In whatever way you want, Sean, make this your home. And I remember we had written an amount and he had written the wrong amount and he crossed out the check. It's still in my wallet today and I made him write a note at the back that this is to new beginnings, and I folded it and I kept it in my wallet. And I remember we put the whole apartment together and we did it.
So hold on.
Yes.
How did you know the time was right to ask her back in?
You feel it in her eyes. You see it in her chemistry. You see her body language relax. You see her relax. You see her feeling safe around you. You see Gibran, our son, feeling safe around. You know this environment is a healthy one. And you know you contributed towards it. And now for just a second, you're the same one who contributed towards a toxic one. And yet you contributed with a lot of hard work and regret towards a healthy one. You know you can make this happen. You signed a divorce 12 months ago. It's not a joke. But now you appreciate this environment and its delicacy and how delicate it is and how fragile it can break. So I knew it was the right moment when I saw her relax around me. And I began to see the beautiful, beautiful wife I had always treasured and wanted around my side. But because of my own undoing, I had turned her into somebody else. But she came back to her essence. Her strength brought her back to her own essence. And I began to admire who she really was right next to me now. And I saw who my son was, starting to bloom around us again. And I said to myself in those moments that, you know what? I never ever want to lose this again. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to show her consistency. So I made sure we continued with that environment for a while where she could feel safe, comfortable, believe it, understand it, know, and also know that I'm not going to change.
Was there a wedding? A second one?
No, but there was a proposal at Soy Restaurant.
Yeah, so, well, that was beautiful. So we had already been living together for a year now, and it was our anniversary because we've celebrated every year on the original day we got married.
At 18.
At 18, so we've just always kept that as our anniversary. And we were having dinner, and he had called my whole family for dinner, and they must have been 20, 25 people there. And I still remember he got up and he started to give a speech, and I was like, "Oh, you're so cute." And then suddenly he went down on a knee.
Because of the plastic ring, remember?
I remember.
Yeah.
And I remember in movies you watch when the girl.
Yeah.
But it was real.
It was happening to
we
you.
were already together. We've already moved back in. I never thought that moment would come. And I remember now my family had relaxed and they trusted everything again. And he proposed. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I told you we did things backwards.
So did you go back to the priest, the one who helped sign your?
So we didn't need to, because if you sign a divorce Islamically, but you're intimate in the first 3 months, then you can still always come back together.
Yeah, you
It's
nullify the
easier.
divorce.
Yeah.
Oh, and you nullified it.
Automatically.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
got
But
it.
it still stands enough that if you were to separate, then it's already done. But we knew that this was going to work.
Yeah.
So
It's nullified.
yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
God. And so what's your work now with helping marriages or relationships?
So for the last 9 years now, I first focused a lot on life coaching, NLP, hypnosis, all of that. And then I realized, because of my own, what I had been through, there was such a gap in the market with relationships. So I went and I studied relationship coaching, strategic intervention, equilibration, just so many different things, so hungry for any bit of knowledge that could transform marriages. And then I moved into intimacy, because I realized there were so many couples and families, intimacy not only being, one way between a husband and wife, but in so many ways. And so I did family dynamics and studied that. And so for 9 years, I did one-on-one coaching, feeling I can change a family, bring couples back from the edge, done it successfully so many times, because
God.
not only did I learn it and studied it, but I owned it. I owned what I learned, because
you lived through it.
and we did it. So I would sit with couples that would begin on two ends of a sofa, ready to divorce, and I'd be like, I got you. Minus the 45 and 50-year-olds always wondering, like, you look so tiny, you're gonna change my marriage. You need a birth certificate. And I look at people in relationships and marriages, and I say, there's so many places that they shouldn't have also made it, but they did.
They did.
But we give up sometimes so fast.
Yeah.
But what would happen if you don't conform to the norm, and you don't listen to culture and society, and you don't listen to noise? And now suddenly you trust the most basic instinct God gave you, which is 2 souls and 2 hearts, and you come back into love. What do you create from a place so powerful? And so I still, remember telling my husband when I did, a talk earlier, and I said, you're comfortable with me sharing? And he said, if you don't share, if I don't share, no man will know you can change. No man will know I could be wrong. And no man will know I could be soft. And being soft doesn't mean I'm not masculine.
Yeah.
It just means I'm a gentleman. And relationships are possible. They are work, they're ups and downs, but now you know what boundaries to never cross. You know where to stay. At the end of it, love matters, And so for us, I think that became our journey last year, that in all that COVID loss, that there was like a little flower that had been blooming 16, 17 years ago that could probably leave a fragrance now in such a hard time.
Yes.
And so that's why it became so important for us now to be able to be like, listen, life can knock you down. And this is something my son and I repeat all the time. And it's, life's going to knock you down. But if you're going to fall back, then you better be able to look up. Or you better learn how to fall forward, because then at least you're going somewhere. And so, for us, I feel that became the essence of it. And so I'm still doing the one-on-one coaching.
Yeah, how do people reach you for that?
So what I have done, because I realized during COVID there were so many people that couldn't afford the help. So, whatever media platform I was on, people, they can't afford sessions. And so what I did is I did it for free the whole of last year. I didn't charge a penny. But what I had to realize was, because of time, I would be able to work on DM and voice noting with people. And it blew me away how you don't have to sit face to face with somebody to change a life. How hungry people are to just know somebody cares, someone will advise me, the advice comes with love and care, I can change, I can do it. And so that's what I've been doing right now. So the one-on-ones that I do are all for, the people that can afford that help.
Yes.
And then everyone else I've asked, we do it through my Instagram DM.
Okay.
And so I can voice note and we can talk.
More as we wind up, what are the mistakes men make in marriage, and how can they redeem themselves?
Here's something that I would say. One, if you're going to get into marriage, no, it's not a game and it's not a joke. Secondly, that is another human being. You were born in your womb alone, unless you were a twin. You're going to die and go into your grave alone. Somebody is going to commit and dedicate and loyally give you their whole life. And then they're going to give you the gift of their womb and give you children, which is the product of your love. Value that lady. Keep her like a princess. Why? She's the mother of your children to start with. Secondly, she's going to shape the next generation. Thirdly, you don't have to demonstrate that you're a man. Real men don't hit women. Real men are gentlemen. They provide the protection that a woman wants. They provide what a woman wants with the strength that a man needs to provide it with, yet they are gentle and soft. To be there emotionally and lend a shoulder for when a woman needs to be able to be soft enough to lean on them. Okay? So you provide in many ways. Number two, and it's just the Kenyan culture and everyone has a good laugh about it, which I don't think is really funny. Don't dog. Don't cheat. Don't bring diseases home. If you're not ready for marriage, don't get married to start with.
Yeah.
And if you are doing anything wrong, then do me one favor. Please get help. Please sincerely get help. Because this is a woman who has put her faith in you. My third point would be this. Like anything, like a shiny new car or a purse or anything else.
Yeah.
When you buy it in the first place, the value of it diminishes as you go on through time. But that doesn't mean that car is not valuable anymore and the next model is better than this one. That's just not how it works. Marriage is effort. Marriage takes time. Marriage is something just like a business you need to reinvent. You have to put beautiful ingredients into it. You have to find ways to make it fun and loving. It gives you different flavors at different points in life.
Yeah.
And like the ocean, Shan and I use this analogy a lot of times, is you have tides that are high and you have tides that are low. Sometimes they're in and sometimes they're out.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's still the ocean. So you've just got to be very, very comfortable and understand that if my wife is not well today, give in. Don't fight. Take another day, 5 days from now, 10 days from now, and sit her down in a beautiful environment and say to her, listen, sweetheart, do you remember you said this to me that day? I just feel strong that maybe today I can explain it to you and see that maybe you saw it this way and I see it a different way. You know, but everything doesn't have to be a fight. And you know something, this is the love of your life. She's the one who's going to stand by you, not your friends. She's going to stand by you, not the guys at the pub.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, the people who are going to lose and move away from you the fastest when you lose your money, power, intelligence, and knowledge are all these fake people around you.
Yeah.
So be loyal. Your family will stay by you. And if you don't invest in your family daily, you're going to lose out. Last but not least, marriage is daily work.
Yes.
Daily work. And I'm telling you, I still haven't perfected this. Every single day, to the guys out there, take 5 minutes minimum. Sit down with your wife, switch off your phones. Just find out how she is. Because after 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years, or even 2 days, she has grown 1 or 2 degrees. You have grown 1 or 2 degrees. She has had a different experience with a friend at work, in a matatu, in a taxi, anywhere. Catch up again. Find out. Because you guys are not connected by wires. You can't just transfer information. But make sure that those are beautiful moments. Last, find places to connect. Over a cup of tea. Do something beautiful and soft for her all the time. Keep her soft. Make sure she understands all the time that you are thinking about her. Because there's a famous saying, women need attention all the time. So it doesn't matter how much you give. And to all the guys, this is something my wife will tell you. You can spend the whole day with your wife and she'll say, you know, I really don't feel we connected. And you'll be like, hang on, Sunday we spent 8 hours. What women want is that true presence. They want your heart. That's why they married you. They trust you. The secret is simple. Just be very, very sincere. From here, connect to your wife. and understand her beautiful value. And I promise you one thing, what you put in, you will get back out. I promise you.
We can't even
Unconditional.
dare add anything to that. Yeah, it would be a mistake to add anything
But you
to
can.
that wisdom. But I thank you so much
Thank you.
for sharing your story.
No, thank you for
You
giving
will
us a platform.
definitely be back to speak to men more because
Hopefully.
those platforms are not available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Indeed.
where men hear another man
Yes.
admit to something or own up to something or take responsibility for something and just have the opportunity to witness that this person turned over a new leaf.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's
They don't
possible.
have that.
Yes.
Indeed.
You know, I'm sure a huge percentage of the people who DM you are women or ladies.
So I would say a good 60-40.
Yeah, 60-40,
Yes.
yeah. So you find that's why men keep things internally and they just choose to do however they know, however best they know how to do things. So you have to come back and keep giving that wisdom.
Yeah.
We have to make that date.
I tell you something, all my wisdom comes from her, through her, with her. So
Together.
we will definitely come back. I'm looking
Perfect.
forward
Yeah,
to it.
you is we.
Yes.
You is we.
Yes.
You is we.
We would love to.
Awesome.
Yeah, it
You
would be
know-
our pleasure.
Because you've done such a beautiful show, Catherine, if I just end with one thing, this is what I would say. In a relationship, there are always 3 levels. You're either planning your escape or you're in level 2 where you're trading. If you give me, I'll give you. You didn't give me attention, I'm not going to give it to you. But I've realized the best place to live, which is the scariest place, which requires the most vulnerability that so many relationships are scared to go to, is unconditional.
Indeed.
When you are utterly unconditional, you can never lose. Because even when you get hurt, you win because you showed up 100%. So in any area of your life, always show up unconditionally, 100%. You're never the one that loses.
Indeed. Beautiful.
You know I'm not adding anything. Otherwise I'll spoil it. And you know I do not want to spoil it. So stay safe. The episode is on YouTube. Ciao.
Thank you.
Gem Suites Hotel and Luxury Service Departments currently boasts 2 properties within Kenya. Gem Suites State House Crescent, set in the exclusive State House neighborhood, comprises of 34 well-appointed apartments, and Gem Suites Riverside, set up in a secure, private and tranquil setting. In the upscale Riverside neighborhood with 98 luxuriously appointed full-service 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, superior hotel rooms and presidential penthouses.